I know it's only August. August just started. Still have a couple months of the year left to go. I'm sure it's going to be a good game still. If I had to decide right now what my game of the year 2019 was going to be, I'd say Fire Emblem Three Houses. And I'm not quite finished with it yet. Maybe they'll, maybe the ending will suck, and it won't give me the same like emotional impact of like a Kingdom Hearts 3 did.
Yeah.
But right now, enjoying it so damn much. It's just like occupied my entire mind. So basically, for anybody that doesn't know anything at all about Fire Emblem, it is primarily, we'll say, because of what this game does to change it up, it's primarily a turn-based strategy game. Most like Americans might be more familiar with the Final Fantasy Tactics series as like a turn-based strategy reference point, even though Fire Emblem actually predates that series. We just didn't get it in the US until a couple of years afterwards. So grid-based movement. You have your team on a map. You move your characters around. Everybody's got a different class. So some people use swords, some people use spears, some people use axes. You have your archer classes, and you just want to take down, your opponent in any number of turns. You can just go like full 3D during the battle mode and just like ignore the grid entirely. And so like if your character is moving onto a tile that like would have trees on it, they actually have animated trees you can just run your character through until you get them to where you want them to get them, and then they're in position, they can do their thing. This game is set in a monastery. They say monastery, really it's war school. Your main character that you play as is a former mercenary who was hired to be a professor at this monastery that teaches primarily nobles how to fight in battles so they can, go lead armies and junk. And when you go out and do your missions, you're controlling your professor character and the students, basically. So the game's called Three Houses, and the Three Houses refers to like three different classes, like Hogwarts-style houses that are at this school. And you're this new teacher, so very early in the game, you're given the choice between which of the three classes you want to teach. You meet the three students who are like the heads of these houses. One of them is literally like the princess of the empire. One of them is the like he would be king if he was an adult of the next kingdom, the neighboring kingdom to the empire. And then the heir of the like noble alliance, which is like the third ruling power in this continent. So like the three of them make up the houses, and you have to choose basically like which one of these three knuckleheads do you like the best, and that's the team you're going to be on for the rest of the game. And as far as I know, that choice basically gives you like a different game depending on which one you choose. So I chose to align myself with the alliance. The kid's name was Claude. The house that you join is called the Golden Deer, and I chose that just because I thought the other two people I didn't like their personalities. Basically, Claude is just very open about everything. It's just like, hey, we're all nobles, and let's all hang out. And like one of the first things he does is like after you join his house is, just to give you an idea of his personality, you have to like fight a battle against the other two houses, and he's like, hey, you know what I could do? I could just like give them all food poisoning, so if they can't show up, and then we would automatically win. Like, wouldn't that be great if I just poisoned their food? And you're just like, no, you can't poison their food. Like, why would you do that? You can't sabotage the other teams. And he's just like, Teach, look at you, always trying to stay on the right path. You're such a good role model. He's just like a lovable scamp, basically. And you sort of find out like his backstory, which is pretty interesting. I'll ask people, what house did you pick? And 9 times out of 10, no matter what house they say, they always say the correct choice. Like, I picked Black Eagles because it's the correct choice. I'm like, is it? I don't think there is a correct choice. I think that's kind of the point, is that there is not a correct choice. It's just whatever reasoning you came up with. So I'm interested in people's reasons, basically.
Yeah.
So let me know. Leave a comment about that. What always set Fire Emblem apart was the fact that it had permadeath in it, So you had to be especially tactical in how you approached your maps, because any mess up would cost a character permanently, you know? Since Awakening on the 3DS, they've given a casual mode that lets you not play with permadeath, which I think is really great, actually. And this game actually introduces a new mechanic called the Divine Pulse, which lets you rewind turns all the way back to the beginning of the level if you wanted to. So, like, if you mess something up, you can just rewind the clock, bring those characters back to life, and that's another way to deal with it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's great. I guess I'll just talk about it now. I think that's good because, like, my sort of hang up on with permadeath in general is, like, I totally get permadeath if you're playing like a roguelike where it's like a run-based game where like your main character dies and then you have to go back through with another character or whatever. The thing that sort of always got me about like the permadeath in Fire Emblem is that it's kind of only punishing two players that are playing it for the first time and don't really know how the game works at all. You know, my first time through Awakening, like, I was losing characters left and right on what should have been actually very easy maps, but like I didn't really understand much of the mechanics yet or anything like that, you know. So some people would say, "Oh, well,
Right.
that's how you learn: is you die and you go back and try again." But to me, like, that's just was like demoralizing and made me not want to play the game anymore. You know, I think it kind of only should end up mattering like maybe towards the end of the game when you have no excuse because you should know how things work by now. And if a character dies, it's because you actually like made a bad choice, you know, or weren't thinking about something. This game, I think, actually, I don't know, it's kind of hard to judge because of the fact that I do have some experience with the series now. But I feel like this game, in addition to having the Divine Pulse option, which I think is great because it's something that people that like permadeath never have to use, but if you're afraid of it but still want to like maybe leave that option open for like end game or, you know, when you want to have a challenge, then it's a way to like ease yourself into it and correct your mistakes. But on top of that, I also kind of feel like this game really eases you into it really well. So if you've never played one before, the first couple of maps you play on are pretty easy, and you'd have to make some pretty huge mistakes, I think, to have any of your characters actually be like in harm's way, which I think is pretty cool. So the extra thing that they've added on top of that is that you can explore the monastery. So the game has like this sort of monthly calendar structure where at the beginning of the month they tell you this is the mission that you're going to be doing this month, prepare for it however you want, and then like on the last day of the month it'll show you like this is when your mission is. And then every weekend your character can choose to explore the monastery or do battles. And if you do a battle, it's just like what I described before. It's just a normal map. You can just bring in whoever you want to bring in to do that. It's a good way just to grind, to get some class experience. Or you can choose to explore the monastery, which is when you can like actually just physically talk to all of the students that are on your team. And when you talk to them, you can do quests for them. You can have like dinner with them. You can you can sing in the choir with them, which is kind of funny. Just like all these different things you can do with them, and that does like a couple different things. It will give you like support points with them. So then when characters like have higher support levels, then when they're standing next to each other in battle, they will give each other positive effects. So like your attack stats will go up, your, you know, evasion stat will go up. When you do these things with your students, like it also increases their motivation. So then since you're a teacher, there's also a day of the week where you actually teach a class, and the class is literally you just choosing a student and like raising any of their like skill levels. If your students have more motivation, then you'll be able to raise, you know, more of their stat levels, like every time you want to do that. And then when their stat levels, you know, increase, then they unlock new skills. You know, they can unlock new jobs and like job classes, and then that's just from there just sort of balloons out, and you can just build your team, you know, based on that, you know. So basically, like, you don't want to just be battling all the time. You want to be interacting with your students. You want to be doing these other quests. What I think is super cool about that is like a lot of people have compared it to Persona. I haven't played a Persona game to actually like know that. I kind of get the same feeling out of this that I got from when I was talking about Ni no Kuni 2 earlier this year as like a game I really enjoyed from last year. what I really ended up liking about that game was the fact that you were building your own kingdom. So you had to do all these quests for all your kingdom folk, and it felt like you were really having like a stake in that world beyond just going out and fighting monsters over and over again. And I get the same impression from this game. You know, when you go around the monastery, you interact with all of your students. It really makes everything feel more real, you know? So beyond just caring about your characters not dying on the battlefield because of the permadeath thing and, oh my god, I lost my archer or whatever, you start to think of them as actual characters with actual personalities, you know? You start to care for them, you know, a lot more than you would just from like nameless characters. And that stuff is all just like the supports. Some of them are kind of hokey, but like the writing in general is like really good on that kind of stuff. And there's so much of it. I'm just like, as a writer, I'm sitting here thinking like, good God, they have however many characters. Every possible character interaction, like relationship, has at least like 3 different levels, you know, so you know every possible character combination has at least 3 different conversations they're going to have in the game. It's like hundreds of conversations that had to be written, you know, and then that's before you even get into people having like just unique things to say when you talk to them walking around the monastery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then everybody's got prompts and battle. You know, it's just like, and then you have your actual like story and plot. You know, all the game, like everything works. All the gameplay works. You know, when Nintendo first pitched this idea of, oh, you're gonna have like a life sim on top of our hardcore turn-based strategy game, I was just like, what? Why would I want that? But they like nailed it so much and integrated it so perfectly into the already existing like support system, which was already in Fire Emblem, that it just like makes you like want to do every part of it, you know? For me personally anyway, like I can't like marathon a turn-based strategy game because like I just sort of get burnt out on thinking about every single move you gotta make and, you know, every decision counts kind of a thing. So like I would sort of have to do like one, take a break, you know what I mean? So the fact that this game has that like baked into it, every time you do a battle, you're like kicked back to the calendar screen where you can choose, all right, well, do you want to go explore now, or do you want to do another battle? Like, what do you want to do? You know, you can like set your own pace basically. If like you're like nervous about the more like life simmy stuff, like that's fine, because again, first of all, there's so much to do that you don't have to spend a ton of time doing any of it, you know what I mean? And I mean, if you want, or if you're playing on like normal difficulty, there are like battles you can do that don't take up any of your action points, you know? So, I mean, you don't really have to teach your students. You could just grind forever and ever and ever to get those skill points up, you know? It would just make it harder for you to like change job classes. I just like it, man.
All I know is that it's sold out the first day.
It's like sold out everywhere right now. Like, I know Best Buy seems to still have some copies, but everywhere else is like does not have it. It's a problem.
I don't know. It's a huge problem because I want to get it, but I also, you know, would prefer to just get it at work.
The collector's edition went back up at GameStop earlier today, which I bought. Unboxing on the channel. Check it out, everybody. And but like I know you might be able to order the standard edition online, but I know like my local GameStops, like I have 4 GameStops within 10 minutes of me, and none of them have it in the store. You know, which is all sold out. So I don't know if they sort of massively underestimated how popular this game was going to be, or what. But
I think we did. Because like I didn't think it would sell out like that.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm done.
Okay. I kind of figured. Because there's only so much you can say without spoiling stuff.
Yeah, well, and I also feel like I just keep remembering things, you know? Like, oh my god, this thing. Oh my god, this thing. You can follow us on Twitter at BrotherlyLoveG1. And follow us on Twitch at BrotherlyLoveG1. If I can set up my Switch in here, maybe I'll try to stream some Fire Emblem. Nice. Then, you know, maybe also I won't because, you know, somebody will jump in and spoil the ending for me or something. So
it's possible.
Maybe I won't do that. But we'll see. Follow us and we'll make it happen. I think it's going to be it for this time, though. My name is Alex.
And I'm Spence.
And we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for hanging out.
See you.
Bye.